Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, a narcoleptic comedian, and this is the podcast where I interview people in my bed and we talk about sleep, comedy, and relationships. This is my 83rd episode, and I have comedian Krish Mohan as my guest. Krish and I talked about so many different things. We talked about touring the country. We talked about sleepwalking. We talked about working out your next hour as a stand-up. Also how his fiance proposed to him and having friends that are almost too liberal and much, much more. We had a really fun conversation. You can check out his podcast called Taboo Table Talk, where guests talk about socio-political issues. He's also the creator of Forkful of Noodles, a weekly satire web series. You can catch him around the country, but he'll be at 730 Tavern in Boston on September 23rd and the Reliable Tavern in DC on October 12th. To see more show dates, you can go to ramennoodlescomedy.com. That's RAMAN noodlescomedy.com. You can also follow Krish on Twitter at Krish Mohan Haha. So Krish Mohan, KRISHMOHANHAHA. Sleeping with Sarah is brought to you by audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah to get a free audiobook of your choice. This week, I'd like to recommend The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl by Issa Rae. Again, that's audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. Well, I think that's all the plugs for today. You can check out my upcoming shows on my Instagram and website. You can go to sarahalbritton.com or sleepysarah.com and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Well, let's get started with the show.
Sleeping with Sarah.
I'm remiss in the sense that I fell behind because we hit some weird car issues on the road. So, when you kind of have to deal with that, and it seemed like we were going to have to spend all this money to get a part fixed that didn't fucking need to be fixed, you know?
Man.
Yeah, so it was so I basically lost a couple days worth of work, and so did Liz, and so we're, behind, but I was really looking forward to being oh, cool, maybe I can record my show with, a sweet LA background with natural light and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's nope, I just started the process as we were getting into LA.
That's too bad. But that's very cool. I feel like you on the road, you kind of run into those troubles. We ran into our own troubles on the road as well. My mirror just popped out of my car and broke.
Oh my God.
Like the mirror on the side. And we were in Kansas and I have a Volkswagen. Of course, in Kansas, there's no Volkswagen dealerships.
And they're expensive to fix, right?
Well, it's just the mirror part. It wasn't the whole thing. It was just literally the tiny mirror part inside of the thing.
Right.
And we had to go and cut it out of, we went to an AutoZone and there was a reflective material. It was not a mirror. It was reflective material. Basically looked like a funhouse mirror. So we could get our way to Denver and then get a replacement in Denver. And so
that's crazy.
Yeah. It was I
hate it. It's the only thing that I think spikes my anxiety to a point where I'm I got to a point where, and this is the second day straight of dealing with it, where it was oh, your transmission's gone. And you're going to have to spend all this money on it. And it's I don't know how we're going to do that because we don't have that money. So, it's I'm panicking. We're talking about getting a new car on the road, which that process in and of itself is chaos. And it's it spikes my anxiety to such a level where it's, I literally said, well, fuck it. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, you
cool.
can. You can. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I was just fuck it. I'm gonna quit and just get a desk job and then kill myself. And my fiance's what are you talking about? It's gonna be fine. We don't know what the problem is. It might not even be the thing that is gonna cost all this money. So chill out for a little bit and watch your show. Relax. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But I hate, car problems is the one thing.
Oh, it gets so expensive.
Yeah, and I think it spikes it for me to this, chaos point where, everything is about to implode on itself and it's just the apocalypse happening everywhere. Well, it's all, it's gonna be
your
okay.
anxiety makes it you make, molehills into mountains, in your, thing with
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And this is, the second day of dealing with it. You know what I mean? If this was maybe, 5 or 6 days in a row where we've had to deal with it, where I've like only gotten maybe an hour or two of work time and then been dealing with it 5 or 6 hours every day for a week, then yeah. But I think the reason why it does that though is because I use my car all the time for work, like to get to gigs.
Yeah,
all
that's
the time.
like your
So,
necessary.
Yeah, so anytime like a little thing goes wrong, I'm like, it's the end of the world. Everything is over.
That's funny.
Like, I might as well just get into a hole and die. And everybody's just like, like, there's a fix to this. It's fine. Like,
But I think
okay.
you need a person that can do that. My writing partner helps me do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey,
yeah, you do.
you're looking at it, like, Sarah, chill out. Like, you've taken too much meds. You're okay.
Yeah, it's gonna take. Let's take a step back from it for a little bit and watch The Flash for a little while.
Yeah,
watch your stupid show. Chill out, and then we'll figure out a solution for it.
Yeah. Don't be angry texting.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in that space where it was like, I didn't want to talk to my mom because it's going to be all this chaos and that's going to trip her panic alarms and all this other shit. So like, so my fiance was handling it by like messaging my mom, and she was like, it's fine. We don't think it's this $4,000 repair. We're going to get a second opinion when we go to Tucson tomorrow. Like, we're going to be okay. Whereas like if I would have sent it, I would just be like, the skies have opened up and the demons are coming through. And she'd be like, what are you, okay, I guess that's happening.
Yeah.
Like that, and then like it does affect everything else. And I think the only thing it didn't affect was the shows. Because it was one of those things where, like, you deal with all of this crazy, stressful shit on the road, and that's the one thing that you want to do. So, like, having a really good show totally changes all of your perspectives.
Well, it's nice that you're traveling with your fiance, because that makes it, a little bit easier. You have that person with you.
Yeah.
And it's, like, I feel like when I have had significant others, they have, like, helped me, like, chill out or, whatever. Like, then they're, like, so I feel like a lot of people don't travel on the road with their, SOs. And so it's nice that you have that, like, to chill.
Yeah, you get to kind of learn a little bit about, like, each other's weird quirks on the road, too.
Yeah, like a long time. Ooh, yeah. Like a long time on the road could make or break a relationship, I think. Like,
It did break it the last time we did it.
And you still did it again?
Well, we did it in a month. We went across the country and back in a month. So we basically went from Pittsburgh to San Diego in like 20 days, and then we came back in like 10 days, which is like an insane amount of time. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's too
that's too compact
short.
and stressful. And
how long is this one?
This one's 4 months. Because we were like, we're going to take the time that we want to. There's certain cities that we want to spend a couple of days. It's like we have friends. Like, we spent a couple days in San Diego because my sister lives there. We wanted to do a show there. We wanted to go to the beach. And so we did. And it's like, it's LA. So we're not just going to be like, all right, well, here's the Hollywood sign. Let's bolt.
Yeah.
So there's certain cities where we were like, let's take the time.
And spend more time.
To stay here. Yeah. So.
And it's cool that both of you have that flexibility. I mean, like, you do comedy, but she's got that flexibility, too, to be able to go for 4 months. That's awesome.
Yeah, so kind of being full-time artists, that comes with its own set of challenges.
But one of the perks is being able to do that.
You get to do whatever you want. Yeah, you get to set your own.
As long as you do some work and make some money, yeah.
Yeah, and that's man, that is the hardest thing to get people to realize. Yeah, is like this is work. You know,
it's not just playtime, and even when you're doing something and not quite getting paid for it, it's still a lot of work. Even just to do a podcast. Like, it's still like editing and doing that, but then that's all skills that you can use to hopefully get other jobs.
Yeah, it's funny is getting to that point has been nice over like 7 years of working the road and writing a show every week and being able to film it, edit it, and put it out, and then starting a podcast 2 years ago too.
So you do both. Yeah, you do both of those.
Yeah,
is that both every week?
Both every week, but I've kind of changed the way that I write the web show, which is basically it's like sociopolitical commentary, right? Yeah. So like Think of stuff like Redacted Tonight or the monologues that Jon Stewart used to do. It's like that portion of it. But I've changed the way that I've done them because essentially I'm trying to dig a little deeper into issues that I'm interested in. So that takes like hours upon hours of research.
Yeah.
Where like I literally spent...
So kind of more like a John Oliver where he digs deep like for like 15 minutes on like a topic.
A little bit, except I don't have advertisers that I have to worry about. Whereas I think HBO doesn't have that many advertisers, but I think there's like people that fund HBO that he can't particularly go after. Ooh. And I have been disappointed with John Oliver. Like I wasn't... I know his Venezuela thing is getting a lot of attention in a lot of like progressive circles as like the inaccuracies that he had in it. Oh. And it seems like a very, like there seems to be an agenda there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't realize that he had.
I didn't either. But I
like a lot of the way that he does his show and how he goes deep into like, you know, immigration and other things like healthcare and how like it's really, just other things like that. It's just been very interesting the way he'll go into a topic that I didn't think about and then go really into it and be like, oh, weird.
And that's sort of the style of what I'm doing is like taking an idea like prison reform and digging as deep into it as possible and seeing what else is connected to it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so hilarious topic. But
so is this right? So you just do it on your own, or do you have other people that write for you?
It's all on basically done by me, right? So that's why I had to like switch how I was releasing them, because essentially, and this was my fiance's idea. This was Liz's idea to be like, hey, why don't you like write a whole bunch and then break it up into like 3 or 4 parts, and that way it'll give you a little bit more time to do everything else that you're doing,
and then you film all of it all at once
and then
once
release
a month,
it. So like, and then you release it in parts so that it gives me a little bit of breathing room.
It's smart, especially
with the way that I was touring. I was like, I can't get this episode out, I'm gonna have a panic attack. And she's like, dude, It went from, in 2017, it went from like 12 minutes to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 in like a span of 3 months. And it's just like, I didn't plan on doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it
you just started getting into it and you're like, I need to talk to it about it more.
About this thing,
it can't just be 10 minutes. It has to be 30.
It has to be a little bit longer. So then it became like, okay, then I can write 7 or 8 pages or 10 pages, or, you know, how many ever pages I want, and then release it so it's like, I'm essentially doing the job of a staff of people.
Yeah, you totally are.
But that's why good skills to have, though.
But that's also why I asked, is like, have you ever thought about having people like help write for you or with you? Or?
I have, and I did at the very like early stages of the show, because the way that I was doing it was I would have 5 or 6 episodes going at a time. So I would write the initial draft, talk to another comic about sitting down and working together, and but it was like, I kind of felt bad, and I was shifting out of this, like, I had characters in the show, too.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I mean, after you develop it, you find your format and see what works.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that format a lot, and, you know, it's one of those things is like, oh, if this ever becomes a thing that ends up on, you know, any sort of TV or whatever it ends up on, and I do end up having like a budget where I have a staff and a thing, like that would be, I think, the format that would make it a little bit more interesting, is to have these weird fake characters come back and, you know, present whatever issue in their particular light. Kind of like what they did on The Daily Show a little bit, because, you know, it's like Colbert and Carell were characters. But that was like the idea that I had initially, and then it just evolved where it was just me in front of a camera talking and writing things in my own voice, and it did help stand up a lot. Like, it did shape the way that I was able to address bigger topics on stage.
And did you find that you felt the pressure to always be funny with these, or you could go deeper without?
Kind of. I think it's yes and no. I think it's like the natural instinct is to figure out where the funny is in it. Like, where's the absurdity? Where's the hypocrisy in it? What am I, like, do I have a goal and a thesis statement for what I'm saying, and how does it counter that, and how can we play off of it? So it's like, yeah, so it is essentially my voice, but a little bit more amped up because it's, it's for the internet, so you got to kind of be more animated about it than you normally would be when you're just trying to have discourse and like, I'm not going to be sitting across the table from somebody just discussing healthcare and be like, this is why I think socialism, and flailing my hands everywhere. It's like, it's like, relax, take it down a notch. Yeah. We're trying to have drinks.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's like, hey, like, don't get on your soapbox now. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have the discourse. You don't need to like get super hyped up about it. Whereas I think when you do something for an online audience, there has to be, it is a little bit of like theater to keep the audience engaged. So I think the humor helps, but I think, you can take the humor in different levels where you can make it a little bit bigger and a little bit more theatrical, and your anger can be ramped up, or as my fiance says is I think you're more subdued in person, whereas when you're on stage, that's really who you are. And that's probably true, is where I feel like there's no restraints of
that's
like...
interesting.
Like...
Because, I feel like a lot of comics, or at least I've been like... Because around certain people, it's like a different vibe, like, especially like on dates, because like, I don't like to feel the pressure to have to be funny or whatever.
Yeah,
and most dudes, like, they want a funny girl, but what they mean is they want a girl to laugh at their jokes.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they mean.
Yeah, they want somebody that gets their sense of humor.
Yeah. They don't want the girl to like outshine them, that kind of. And I don't like hold back in terms of that, but I've had people be like, oh, you don't seem like you're a comic. I was like, well, how many comics have you hung out with, dude? Like, and it's like, I don't feel like the need to like have to be funny all the time,
Yeah, that's sort of how I feel too, is like I'm also a human. So like whenever people are like, "Oh, you're a comedian?" Like, I hate the whole tell me a joke thing. Yeah, that's the worst.
It's so bad. And I don't know how hard, like, some people are very like, "Oh, come on," like people will just not like let up. Sometimes it's really annoying.
They have, and then I go into like, okay, well, here's a 9-minute opener I developed about being an immigrant that people don't understand and ask weird questions about. And then they just like, and then I do that in front of them. And about 2 minutes in, they're like, this isn't like a thing that I expected it to be. Why are you doing this to me? Right? And then it's like, don't ask that question to comedians, because this is what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Because to us, it's hilarious to go into a long ranty bit.
Yeah.
That you're, like, and then like workshop it in front of you. Like, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But don't ask that question. But it is funny as to like, I think people expect you to be the class clown all the time.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, and that's not, like, comedians are mostly the weird, like, quiet kids that sat in the back of the room and doodled in their notebook and just, like, watched people.
Yeah.
That's most comedians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to ask you one of the questions I usually ask, because we just started talking right away. How'd you sleep last night?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We're sleeping on an air mattress, and it's a really good air mattress. But it's not noisy, and it's like nice and firm. But I do this thing where I will go to like collapse. So
what do you mean? Like, just like when you go to sleep, you just collapse?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'll get into my PJs, and usually like I'm out maybe 10 or 15 minutes by the time my head hits the pillow. Like, I'm pretty sure I was reading an article as I fell asleep. So it was like I had to reread most of that this morning.
Oh yeah, whenever like doing something late at night, it's like I've had so many times where I like rewatched the same show or movie. I was like, I fell asleep during this part, and I know it's important, and I kept like, I've done where I've like rewatched. I actually had this whole joke about how, like, watching a movie with a friend, and then I fell asleep. I'm like, hey, rewind. No, and then 10 minutes later, rewind it again. And they're like, like, why?
Yeah. I probably collapsed, and this is, I don't know how good
What do
this
you
is
mean,
or
like?
not.
What do you mean, like collapse?
I'm out.
So,
like a light.
you just go to bed. You said 10 to 15 minutes after.
10 to 15 minutes. I'll lay down, and usually like me and my fiance lay down together.
It's pretty immediate.
And it's like I'm asleep before she is.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly, like she's got a whole thing that she does. She'll brush her teeth and wash her face and make some tea.
I like to. I mean, I always try to brush my teeth and do all this stuff. But sometimes I just fall asleep in my clothes and I wake up and I'm like, all right, that happened.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I muster up to do is to make sure that I'm in my PJs because I don't like sleeping in my jeans. Mm-hmm. But like once I'm in my PJs, I get comfortable, and then we got the air mattress up, and once we did that, my head hit the pillow, and she was brushing her teeth, and I was reading this article because we like to go to sleep at the same time, and
all
that's
a
that
thing.
kind
Couples,
of thing.
Yeah, I forget. It's been a while since I've been in a couple, so I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like it's weird. Like I'm even like I don't even use the word relationship anymore. I'm just like, it's been a while since I've been in a thing. It's not like
like a coupley thing.
Yeah, like a
with
thing.
Human.
Yeah, that's what that is. I forget.
But yeah, that has kind of helped with like going to bed somewhat at a reasonable hour. Although that has not happened since we've been on the road. But
do you find that you usually have trouble sleeping or?
No.
Or any sleep issues overall? Like a lot of comics have different.
I don't have a sleep schedule.
Oh.
Which I think is why it's like I go to like can't. And then once I can't, it's like let's have enough energy to get pants and then go to bed. And
nice.
That's it.
Wow.
So I pretty much, and that's been a trend for a long time. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if that's healthy or not, but and there there's been certain points where in high school I actually used to sleepwalk.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Let's hear about that. So I don't sleepwalk that much. I have a handful of times in my life, but talking a lot.
I used to. That's mostly
how did you find out that you sleepwalked?
So when I first moved here, I think it was very linked to my anxiety, and
that's what a lot of it is. It seems like.
So when I was like 9, I woke up in the shower, like taking a shower. Oh,
that's actually so that could also be. Did you do the same routine every morning?
Yes.
So that could also be that little sleep thing. It could also be called automatic behavior. So automatic behavior is where your body is used to doing the same thing the same way, and your brain kind of just shuts off, and your body does that. So when people like wake up in the shower or wake up like brushing their teeth or something, that's actually called automatic behavior.
That's so crazy.
So just like a random thing. Yeah.
That's sort of what it was. It wasn't. I think it happened maybe twice.
Yeah.
And then but I didn't really think anything of it because I was like 9.
Yeah. You don't think about what those things are.
Yeah, it's not like this might be something I should tell my parents about. It's like, nope, I'm just gonna shut my mouth and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then when I was in high school, the same thing happened where I would like get out of bed and I would like have conversations with my mom or my sister, and they would be like these long, elaborate conversations, and within 15 minutes, it's gone off the rails, right? Like I'm saying some things that don't make any damn sense.
Yeah. When I get tired, especially if I'm dating somebody or something like that, and we're like talking, it's late at night, I will have things where I'll just like be in the middle of a regular conversation, coherent, and then I'll just be like, and then the hippopotamus ate and I wanted to shoot it, and
right,
like it just doesn't make sense. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I'm not coherent.
Yeah.
I that's one of the bits that I closed one of my albums on was about how like sleepwalking was part of anxieties and stuff.
Did your parents did you tell them about like waking up?
No, but they kind of figured something was going on, but mental health stuff isn't really talked about a whole lot in Eastern cultures, especially like conservative Eastern families and stuff. So
it was kind of ignored, or?
Yeah, they just thought like, oh, you need to go to bed at a regular hour. Because I would do that. Like, I've been doing this whole, like, run myself into the ground thing since I was a kid.
Oh, so this is like a...
Yeah, it's like a pattern. And I think I've kept, like, a bedtime very rarely. I think in high school I tried for a little bit. And I was like, this is great. This is working out okay. And then by, like, the third night, you know, it's like I can't fall asleep. I'm restless. You know, I'm like rolling around in the bed, and then I just wake up and play video games for 3 hours until I just fall asleep playing video games. So what would happen is I would usually like fall asleep, and there's something that it was usually like something I had to do either the following day or whatever. And it's like I went to bed thinking about it and kind of obsessing about it because it's something that I worried about. Mm-hmm. And so one of the stories is, like, I had to record a TV show for my sister, right? So it was, like, a Friday night. Mm-hmm. I came back. I put the VCR in, or turned on the VCR. I put the thing in. And, you know, all I had to do was hit record at a particular time. And my mom came in 20 minutes before the show started, and she woke me up. And I started arguing with my mom that I had to record this thing. And I was like, oh my God, you have to hit the round thing. Click the... But I couldn't make the distinction between the record button, which is a circle. It's a red dot. And I kept calling it the round thing. So, like, I kept arguing with her for, like, 20 minutes until the show started. And my mom just hit record because she was like, okay, I guess that's what the fuck you're talking about. I had no idea this happened until the next day.
Oh, yeah. So this whole interaction.
I woke up on the couch the next morning. I made myself coffee, and my mom is like, what's going on? So why are you mad at me?
Have you had that as an adult at all?
No. I don't think it's been that bad. I think I've said stuff in my sleep.
I've definitely had phone conversations that I don't remember because you can see it on your phone later.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that person called me, like, and it's like people will call you late, and it's like, oh, that person called me at 4 a.m. I had a 5-minute conversation with them.
Yep.
Don't remember that at all.
My sister apparently does that with me, where it's like a 25-minute conversation, and then she is like, oh, I don't remember doing that. Like, do you know what we talked about? And it's like, oh. Yes, I do.
Or it's like, hey, you've told me that before, and then I forget. Like, I get really forgetful late at night. Well, and also, I feel like also just remembering people, because I'm meeting so many people, like, late at night, that, like, I feel like when my body starts to get tired, my brain, like, there's certain things that don't work as well. And one of those is remembering people and, like, talking, like, right.
Yeah.
So did you take any medicine for the sleepwalking or any of that? Or they just didn't?
No.
They didn't, it was like your house didn't talk about it.
We just didn't talk about it because, and I think it was just like until later in life, like probably like 3 or 4 years ago was like the first time that it dawned on me that this was something that might be a little problematic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because no one ever talked about it as being something that I did on a regular basis. That was a problem. And then like later I was just like, that was probably something I should have taken care of. But it was very much linked to something that I was being very anxious about or kind of panicking or being very obsessive about, like recording the TV show for my sister, right? Like that was like a thing that we did together. So recording that show and watching it with my sister was like a very important thing to, whether I realized it at the time or not, was very important to me. And falling asleep and having my mom kind of wake me up, and that was the forefront of what was going on in my brain. And like the bit that I ended my album on was walking into my sister's room and telling her to bury me in the rose garden. And like my sister had no idea what was going on.
That's
and
so creepy.
It was weird.
That is so, like, how old were you?
Like 15, 16.
Okay, that's good, because if you were like 6, that would have been like the scariest thing ever. Oh, a little child like coming in, I want you to bury me in the rose garden.
That is horror movie shit.
Like that is totally horror movie shit.
But I basically I yelled at her because she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I yelled at her about how she doesn't understand me. And I was like, I don't have any recollection of doing this.
Wow.
But what I did date was so we went back and forth for a little bit, and it was about 15 minutes that we had this argument, and then we went downstairs, and I guess like she made food or something, and then I just went to the couch and turned on the TV and fell asleep watching TV, or she thought I fell asleep watching TV. I wasn't awake to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like those stories like that don't really make sense until probably into like my mid-20s. And now it's like I kind of understand what my body does in moments of like higher stress or more anxiety.
Is it a fight or flight thing? Yeah, it's like like I mean, part of the narcolepsy is the falling down, and that happens at like a shock or a surprise.
Yeah.
So it's like I wonder if like that was a weird evolutionary thing. Like if we're hunter gatherers, a bear comes and like we fall asleep, and then it's like a natural playing dead.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's just one of those weird things. It's like, oh, is my body like a fight? Is that the fight or flight response that I just happen to have that I had to manage?
Yeah.
But it's always interesting just to hear different things. So sleepwalking, automatic behavior. I'll have you look that up.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah, but yeah. So since you were a kid and you don't, but now it doesn't affect you as much.
No, I don't think. I'm trying to think of the last time that I actually slept walked. I don't think I've done that since I was probably 15 or 16. I think that's the last time that it happened. I know. I've slept talked a bunch, because that happened the last time that I remember happening like for a little bit consistently was after my friend's suicide, and I think it was like I kept talking to him, and my mom had to like wake me up from the room and stuff. But this was like a day or two after it happened.
Yeah,
right. So I think it triggered those things back up.
I think high stress definitely does that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah. That's so crazy. But overall, like, you can do all right sleeping on the road in different places, or you don't have to...
Yeah. I for the most part, she has... my fiance has more... She's a little bit more of a sensitive sleeper than I am. So... if it's like an uncomfortable bed, or if she's not like able to sleep very well right away, I know, and most of the time I like when she gets out of bed, like I wake up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I would always just sleep. I'd be like, whatever. Like,
yeah, right? Like, well, we had a weird experience with kratom. I think that's the right way.
What is kratom?
Kratom is it's like a plant that's mostly used for like pain reduction and relieving opioid addiction.
Now I have heard of it.
Yeah. So in some places, like they sell it, and the way they do it is they mix it with like almond milk or coconut milk or like orange juice or something, right? And it's supposed to be very relaxing. And being on the road, like every so often I get like lower back trouble, just because you're in and out of a car, you're sleeping in different surfaces every night, there's no consistency. So so we were in Chapel Hill, and we went to this place that sells kratom, and we told them what's going on, and we're like, listen, we don't want to overdo it, so let's just share one. And they're like, cool, this is the chill out one. Like, it'll help with pain, but it won't like tweak you out or anything. Like, it's a very mellow dose. So we did it, and so we split one, and I went manic. Oh, like within an hour. Where it's like recording that show usually takes me 30 to 45 minutes, and then like I'll edit it or whatever, so it takes me a while to do that sort of stuff. But I'm outside talking to our friends who we're staying with, and I'm like, I'm gonna record this video, then I'm gonna make my Patreon video, and then I'm gonna make all these posters.
I feel like there's certain drugs that just make you like way overly ambitious, which is like not the productive ambition, but the ambition where it's like all these things that aren't actually gonna get done.
It's like, whoa, where's all this energy gonna be funneled into, Yeah. So Liz had to like calm me down, so we went for a walk, we came back, and then like I was able to get through the one thing that like when I woke up I'd set to do. But the weird part of it was, normally if I end up staying up late at night, like when we don't go to sleep at the same time, like I'm working on my computer in bed, and she'll fall asleep. So that normally doesn't bother her all that much. Like she can sleep through the, the
clicking.
keyboard clicking and stuff. Like it's soothing for her and stuff. But that night,
that's a noise machine one I haven't gotten. Keyboard clicking.
Yeah,
like,
right? That's a good one.
Interesting. Soft keyboard clicking. That's just the...
So that night, she goes, "You're not resting and I can feel you not resting." And and I was just like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, I could feel it. Like I could feel
the
like
energy.
Your body tensed up.
Oh.
Next to mine, and it made me tense up.
So you need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, so then I was like, all right, okay. So then I like laid down while, like my computer was exporting or whatever the fuck it was doing. And then, and I, woke up the next morning and took care of the rest of what I need to take care of. But it was like very weird that she was like, I can feel you not sleeping. Like I can feel that happening.
I feel like it's not as weird like when you're in a long relationship, and I was in one for a while, like I feel like you do have this weird sense about the person.
You do.
So you do have this weird sense. And we had a couple situations where it was like one night we got in a fight and like we weren't living together at the time, and like I ended up getting up about to like I could feel that he like came back, in my house. And it was like, and I didn't even hear it. It was just like, oh, and then it was just kind of like that weird thing. And there you are in the doorway. You were about to ring, but you didn't, it's like one of those weird, I feel like you get that the longer you spend time with people. And so I understand that. And I'm a very big believer in energy, not like in a like weird, like hippie-dippy sense. It's just like, I do believe in energy. I like being around positive people that like, helps me, or being around people that are also motivating. Yeah,
there's so she plays delta waves when we go to sleep.
Okay. What does that sound like? Can you make the noise?
It's just like a woo, like it's this very soothing kind of noise. But it's like what she plays every night before she goes to bed. So when I'm with her, if that noise isn't around, it's weird. Like, I feel like something's off. So I sometimes will remind her about it.
Do you ever just make the noise and see if she notices the difference?
No. Oh, man. That'd be hilarious. I need to memorize what it is.
Yeah, just memorize it and be like, and see if she could tell.
Yeah, right?
Like, if it shut off. She'd be like, I can feel that's your voice doing it.
Or she just falls asleep and it's like, oh, that's... great. I'm a delta wave machine on my own.
And then it's like a hypnosis thing. If you ever want her to go to sleep, you just make the noise. Right. If you're driving on the road and she wants to talk about something you don't want to talk about, you're just like,
and she's out.
Yeah. I was meaning to ask you, do you have a fiancé ring?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't see that on many people, so I was curious.
She proposed to me. So she got me this ring, and then we went and got one of my mom's rings. So yeah.
So what? How did that? How did she propose?
She always was like, oh, I want you to propose to me on stage. I was like, ugh, that sounds so exhausting, but fine, whatever. Like when the time is right or whatever. And then it became like we had a bet about like who do you think is going to do it first. And I'm not as like theatrical and showy, as which I know I said that earlier that I do, but even in that sense, like it's not as theatrical as what some people might see, those political commentary videos to be. It's pretty straightforward. So she got me a birthday card. And on the bottom of it, she said, "Happy birthday, I love you, blah, blah, blah." And it said, "P.S. Will you marry me?" And I kind of looked at her and I was like, "Are you being serious? Or is this are you like playing a prank
like a cute
on
little
me?"
thing.
Yeah. And she was like, "No, like that's a serious question." I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." And so and
she didn't get down on her knees and give you a ring, or no?
No. And then the ring was like in, so she got me like a Carlin record, and a vest, that I have in the car.
You are a vest guy.
I'm a vest guy, yeah. I like that and blazers. In the winter, I'll start wearing blazers a little bit more. I have to tailor a couple of them when we get back home. But, because I'm built weird. So, it's like my arms are super long, but my torso's super short.
Do you do it yourself, or do you go to somebody?
No. We just found a tailor that, like, is cool and is willing to work with us and stuff and understands our budgets.
I have heard that when you have, you can also tell when people have money, but when you have money, like, it's good investment to, like, have somebody tailor stuff. Because the reason everybody looks so good in film and TV is because every piece of outfit is, like, made for their body.
Specifically to tailor
tailored for them.
Right,
specifically.
Right.
That is why everybody looks so amazing there.
Right.
And for, like, you know, any photo shoots on magazines, like, all that stuff. That's why everybody looks so great. And you can tell, like, even being in LA for the short amount of time I've been here, being able to see, oh, you got a tailored suit, like that. You know,
it
fits
looks
perfect.
Very I have one that. So it's like I just have to find these, and when I do find them, I'm like, I gotta get it now. So I have a couple blazers that fit my arms really well, and fit, you know, like come very. They fit the upper part of my torso pretty well, and then they're just a little bit too long, so they need to be like tucked in a little and pulled in, like. Because, like I said, I have a very short torso and super long legs, so it just looks kind of off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not to the point where it's like, oh, you're a child wearing your dad's blazer.
Or are you two people standing on top of each other? Two children, yes.
You know,
yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looks okay, but something feels not quite where it needs to be. So we found a tailor that's helping her bridesmaids with some dresses, because it's this pseudo mix wedding. So it's like non-traditional, but we're doing some things from like Presbyterian stuff and some things from the Indian tradition. Are your parents arranged marriage, or were they? My parents were arranged. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that a different? I mean, I guess now it's contemporary, so it's much more different than...
Yeah, it was from... I went to my uncle's wedding, which was like a super traditional Indian wedding, and it was like the longest thing.
Over the top? It's like 4 days.
Yeah, so the ceremony is one day, and that was like... We had to go to like this specific place in the South to go do it. So, you know, like, we had to fly in, take a bus, get a hotel, and then, like, the next day, we all had to be up at, like, 4 a.m.
You do, like, the henna thing and the other, like, or...
So they did that the night before in the hotel. So, I guess for his side of the family, since I was, like, the next closest male or something like that, like, I had to get up and, like, do some ritual and then eat breakfast with him and stuff. And I'm like, I'm tired. Like, I want to be in bed. Why are we doing this
so
right
much
now?
Work.
Yeah, it was like 10.
And also, at one point, don't you need to, like, be on a horse or, like, some sort of, like, animal?
I think he came in on a horse. Yeah,
you're supposed to come into the ceremony on, like, a horse or, like, a... It could be a horse, a camel, elephant, whatever.
Yeah, I have a vague recollection of some barnyard animal.
So many different things, I think, in that culture. But I guess that my question really was, like, how did your parents feel about you not... Did they ever push you to try to do an arranged? Or
she did. My mother did.
Oh, really?
Once. And
did she try to set you up?
She was... When we went for my uncle's wedding, she did bring it up. And she was like, oh, we should look for a suitor. And I was like, no. And I was like, this is not happening. Like, I don't want it to happen.
You didn't even entertain the idea?
I just felt like I've always been this, you know, I've questioned things forever. And I've done things to the tune of my own drum for since I was a kid. So it just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like I wanted my parents to... And I didn't understand the nuances of it, but I just felt like it didn't gel right. And then, like, later when you find out, you know, like, it's essentially two different families trying to acquire more land and position power.
Yeah, I mean, marriage is such a
fucking weird thing. Yeah.
I mean, marriage being this whole, like, bargaining tool and, like, it's just, like, a transaction. Like, that's what most of our history of marriage up until, like the last 30 or 40 years maybe, has been transactional. And like, that's,
right.
Like, I mean, really, like, if you look into it, sure, people might have married for love, but there was always these other perks.
There was always he's got a good job, or she
he can
seems
provide
like she can
for
cook
you,
well, or
hey, like, as a woman in the 70s, I can't get a credit card yet, so I had to get married.
I gotta get married to get this, to financial part. To be more in debt,
people used to go to school to get their they used to call it their MRS degree, which is so like fucked up, but totally like, and so I don't know, like, I feel like, thankfully, I mean, after it's been, like, 30 or 40 years of, like, real marriage, and then people are actually getting divorced, and, like, all that. Yeah. I feel like our generation has a very different view on marriage and what it means to us versus what it means to our parents' religion, and I feel like everyone's like, you know what, I don't care what my parents want to do, I want to do my own thing. Like,
yeah, I've had a lot of people, like, people that are, I thought were, like, on the same political wavelength, come at me about like why I'm getting married and like holding up this old institution, and I was like, no, this doesn't, I'm not holding up any institution.
Yeah, I'm
not even doing it the way that I'm supposed to do it. First of all, the woman proposed to the man. Yeah, that's completely different.
You're not arranged.
I'm not arranged. This is an interracial couple.
You're not getting land.
Yeah, we don't own anything. Like, we're not expanding, like, the only thing we have is like, oh, cool, now we kind of share a bank account and our recording equipment for our podcast. Like, that's as far as it gets.
I mean, I don't think it's, I guess for me, it's like, yeah, you do it because you want to. It's not like any other reason.
That's pretty much what it is. We were staying with our friends outside Nashville, and they pretty much said, okay, if we're gonna get married, divorce is not on the table. That means we work through whatever we need to work through to stay together and make a family. Like, we want to be a family together. That's why we're gonna get married. So divorce isn't an option. And that's how we kind of see it. Yeah, and that's how we kind of see it, is like, no, we're doing this to, like, strengthen the partnership that we have, not to be like, hey, guys, we got a piece of paper and get some tax deductions. And let's throw a big party. Yeah, like, it is going to be a big party, essentially. But
the thing is, so many people put that on such a high thing. So, I talked about this in the podcast before, Shonda Rhimes, a very successful producer. She's run Emmys. She's done all these other things. But she said people weren't nearly as excited for all her other accomplishment until when she got engaged. Right. And, like, that's fucked up. But the thing is that people have this whole big thing is, like, that's a goal. It's not an accomplishment. I'm sorry. Like, it's great. Right. You can be happy for people to do it. It's not an accomplishment because anybody can do it. It's not, like, something you should...
it's just a decision you make to be committed a little bit more to somebody that you care about, and I think you want to do that. And I think it's
great for people that want to do that. Right. Yeah,
but it is one of those things that I think marriage and engagements, and like, we've even got we've got shit from people that were like, oh, stop using the word fiance or betrothed. And
so you have friends that are so progressive that they give you shit about
doing what we want to do. Yeah, but sharing our love the way that it's.
I think that's the kind of, like, a little fucked up where we're going in society. It's like, people are so progressive. Like, why even do that? That's supporting this thing. Like, why even have a bank account? You're supporting the bank. Yeah, right. Like, it's like you're supporting the corruption by having a bank account.
It's like, no, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but right now, in order for me to get paid, I need a bank account. In order for me to eat, I need a bank account. Is that okay?
You know what? You could grow your own stuff in your own farm, in your backyard. It'll be organic. It'll be better for you.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, great. So now I'm going to become a farmer. All right. I don't have the skills, but that's fine. I guess I can be a beet farmer now. Like, that's, that's a job for a fucking reason. Yeah. That's one of the things that... But we have had people that have, gotten upset about it.
You're driving across the country and you're not driving a hybrid?
Right. Oh, yeah. I'm sure I have $80,000 somewhere to buy a whole new car for 4 months.
Sorry. I know
there's that's the hypocrisy.
But there are people that totally do that.
Yeah. That's totally... Oh, absolutely. And those are the people that I think, like, I don't know.
I think they
I'm
mean
like,
well, but at the same time,
can you just
chill?
be cool about it? Yeah, like, can you at least realize that I'm not the type of person that's, like, trying to do this weird traditional thing that meant something completely different in the 50s that it does to anybody now.
Yeah.
Like, I think like the idea of marriage is one of those things that has been turned on its head so many times that it has become a hyper individualistic thing. Like, it's what it means to the couple.
Yeah.
Not what it means on a societal level or on a traditional level or a familial level.
I know people that are married that are poly and they have other relationships, and that's what that means to them. So whatever.
They're flipping it on another.
It's like, hey,
head.
Like we're committed to each other, but we also have a girlfriend we share or whatever they have. Like
sometimes we just want to sleep with somebody different. Like that's and that. It's a different relationship dynamic, and in a world where there's so many different ones, like why would you say that doing something that has X label means X thing from 3,500 years ago or whatever when it doesn't anymore? That's evolution.
And I think that's with a lot of different things, and I think that's also like the idea of having, like I said, an individual person. Like to be like I don't. I mean, like, and maybe this could change because people change as people, but, like, I feel like a big epiphany I had, like 4 or 5 years ago was that I don't have to have the love in my life doesn't have to be defined by a singular person.
Sure.
I can get love from friends. I can get love from fulfillment from doing comedy and creative things, and that has been way more fulfilling, I feel, personally, than I got from a single love from a singular person. Now, there could be a person that maybe embodies a lot of that, and that can be great, but that doesn't have to be everything.
That was a lot of like pressure put on in college. When I was in college, is like a lot of people were like coupling up, and it's like this is your big relationship moment.
And then the whole thing is that you lose. I feel like so many people lose their identities when they are in a relationship because that relationship is like the top thing.
It's the only thing that matters.
It's the only thing that matters. So then your other things, your other creative endeavors are the ones that fall by the wayside. So I think you have to have either someone that supports your creative endeavor, hopefully without being in the same field, because that can be weird.
Right.
That can be, you try to avoid that. But, like, someone that can either help you push towards your goals or understands that, hey, like, this is really, really important to me. Like, you're still very important, but, like, this is maybe a bit more,
Yeah.
like I don't know how to say that.
It's weird. It's like
I can say that to people I date casually, and they get it. They say they get it. But if it got to the point where it got serious, then I know that wouldn't fly.
Yeah. That's that was one of the things. Like we made that very clear in the very beginning, and
but that's because she has her own thing, too.
Right? So and I'll still ask her is like, hey, I'm taking a gig around Thanksgiving. Is that cool? Do we have plans? Like, do you think that we're gonna go to your parents for Thanksgiving, or is Christmas the only one that we need to kind of keep? And most of the time she's like, go fucking make the money. Like, why I don't care. Like, go do that. Like, that's important. You
found your person that gets that. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that comes through, communication and realizing what it is, where I've definitely dated people that are like, yeah, I'm totally cool with you being this ambitious person. And then when it comes down to it,
then they're
like, you don't spend enough time at home. And it's like, God, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But now we're having this discussion, and it's the
sucks. Same argument again, and you have this argument like so many times, and then it's just like, I think it's really, I think you sound like you're very lucky, like it's
I think I'm totally lucked out, and it's not like we don't have our challenges, because we do, and there have been plenty of points on the road where we're like, okay, we're stuck in the car for like 3 more hours with each other, and we hate each other right now. Like, both of us don't want to say anything, and we're just going to stare.
Is there an audiobook that will solve this problem?
Yeah,
that is the question. Someone needs to write an audiobook for people that don't want to...
Stuck in a car together.
So, you're stuck into a car for 3 hours. What do you want to do?
Right.
It's just like the go-to,
And then it eventually ends up being like, we'll pull off at a rest stop or whatever, and take a photo of the gorgeous mountains that we're in, and we're just like, all right, well that hour sucked. You want to like figure this out? And it's like, yep. all right, well, this is what happened. This is what I was trying to say. And this is how I feel like you interpreted and got mad. And maybe that's not the right thing. It's like, that's most of our arguments is like, can we, you know, you got to give people, you got to give people a little bit to cool off. And then you can have the discussion about what went wrong and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I did get kind of super weird about something that wasn't hyper specifically related to me. And it was just, you know, whatever.
Yeah. It's all like interpretation. But I do feel like cars are like somehow like a beginning recipe to an argument. Like I've had so many fights with exes in cars.
Yeah, they totally can be. We're like,
because you can't escape it. It's like you're going somewhere. It's like you can, but then like it's a real big deal if you have to pull over and deal with that shit. You know, something's like,
or like they just are like, oh well, I guess we'll just ride it out in silence for the duration of the car ride, and one of us will break.
I can't do that. If it's silence and stuff, I just fall asleep. Like that's it. Like I'm just like I just fall asleep and kind of like avoid it that way, I guess. But it's a great way to avoid fights is just fall asleep.
That is a good way. Yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, maybe we'll it'll be easier to deal with in the morning. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's true.
But then some people have the whole don't go to bed angry thing.
Yeah, I also have I don't know, it's never been a thing where like the next morning I'm like, boy, that was silly. Where like I kind of wake up the next morning and I'm like, this is still fucked up. Like, I can't believe you said that weird thing and like didn't even try to talk to me about it.
Yeah, see, I would just try to like kind of make like I always tried to make up or whatever, or even if there's an argument, like at least like, you know, I don't know. Well, when I was in my long thing, I was like just out of college, so I was just be like, like let's just pretend to make up and have sex, and then the morning will be fine. Like, I mean, that's what your 19-year-old, 20-year-old self thinks. It's like, just have sex before bed, and it's all going to be fine. You know, like, and then you just forget.
You release the hormones, everything's fine.
I mean, I think that works for 20-year-olds. It does not work as much now. No, probably.
once you're like, now, like, I'm at the cusp of 30, and I'm just like, this is, I don't want to be around you right now. Can I just not be around you for like 20 minutes? Oh, man. Oh, we have to go to sleep? Oh, fuck. All right, fine. We'll go to bed. Yeah. And then we'll wake up and angrily drink coffee at each other for a while.
Drink coffee at each other.
Aggressively sipping at each other. Waiting for somebody to say something.
Now, do you still talk about her? Do you talk about her in your stand-up at all? I know it's a lot of political stuff, but
a little bit, yeah. The one we've been recording some of our performances like over the live, like doing like Facebook Live and stuff. And she'll record my sets and I'll record hers. Like we'll kind of swap in and out.
And to clarify, you're on tour right now and she's doing music and you're doing comedy.
Yeah. Yes. So whenever I do the story that we've called the Uncle Marv story right now, and it's basically a story about her conservative uncle, and it kind of erupts into this argument about immigration over Trump. You know, so there's a couple little layers. But he comes back and kind of realizes what he did, you know, and like apologizes in his own way. And that's sort of the only story. Didn't actually
say I'm sorry, but like...
But he tried, you know, like he's trying to make amends, and that's sort of the bigger... So she's like, I don't want to give that story away. So like, I'll let you start it, and then I'll click off when you get into the story so that like it's not up on a video anywhere.
Oh, see, that's good. But she doesn't mind. She knows that that's part of the game.
No, that's part of the game. And
that's part of it. Like, and that's a thing that you had to communicate. And some people are very chill about it, and then some people are like, oh, yeah, you do that, don't you?
Yeah.
And they're like, like, do I...
Yeah, she's pretty cool about, like, anything, if it pertains to a certain point and it becomes an anecdote to that point, like, it's fair. I think the one where I kind of made fun of the fact that, like, we're getting married 5 days before my birthday, and I was like, I feel like this is, like, the Christmas birthday of wedding anniversaries.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like my birthday doesn't mean anything anymore. And she was like, do you really feel like your birthday's not going to mean anything? And I was like, I don't know, maybe we'll just write it out and see what happens. Yeah. Like it's funny because that is a thought that's in my head.
I think that's a funny idea. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's not...
I'm a summer birthday because my mom had her birthday 3 days after Christmas. You know? So like, that's why me and my brother are both summer birthdays, because she didn't want us to deal with that shit.
Yeah, right.
But,
yeah.
you know, some parents would be like, no, fuck that. You're going to have a birthday right around Christmas,
whenever I decide it's going to be. Whenever the universe has said that your birthday is going to be.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it's like stuff like that. But like, if she does have an issue with it, she'll kind of ask me about it. But it's not, it's never like, don't talk about anything that relates to me or my family or anything. And her family's actually heard that story.
Yeah. What do they think?
They like it.
Okay.
Because it's not like it's painting them.
And I don't,
and I don't want it to be, because I think it's important that even if we don't agree politically or whatever, the whole point is, can we have discourse? Can we come to an understanding of like where you were coming from? You know, like, yeah, you kind of said it over emotionally in a state of anger and don't really mean it.
See, I feel like you're somebody that's good to have an argument, like an argument the way an argument's supposed to be, like an argument discussion, not like not a shouting argument, but like I feel like you're somebody that can like kind of calmly explain points without getting too heated. But
yeah, I try to.
But I can understand how you can always fall. But I feel like there's some people like, oh, like I think I would enjoy an argument with you. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, that's a very odd compliment. It's like, you're somebody I think I could enjoy arguing with, because it wouldn't get too heated and we could both actually understand.
Right. And that's I think has always been, and which is like the point of the hour that I'm working on now, is that we can get to a point of discourse, but here's all of the shit that's in the way. And maybe we can think about some stuff a little bit differently, you know, like...
And do you always build your hour with like an idea of like, this is the main theme, or just kind of writing material and it all kind of connects to a way?
A little, it's a little bit of both. Well, so,
and how many hours have you done?
So this is the 5th one.
Okay. I knew it was pretty,
So the last one that I put out, I had a specific goal in mind.
And when was that?
That was, so I recorded that in May of 2017 and released it in August of 2017. It's called Approaching Happiness, and it's all about mental health stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, relating to drugs and gun violence and how immigration plays into it, and just how generally we don't have a good outlook on what mental health is and don't understand how to be happy. Like, stuff like that. So, again, super funny. Very easy to make fun of. So, the whole hour, I went into it specifically to break stigmas around mental health. And then certain things just kind of came out from it. You know, like the idea of happiness just happened to be something that I wanted to explore after a show. You know, like talking about growing up as an immigrant and what the mental health aspect of that is, you know, and obviously drugs was going to be a part of it, because and marijuana reform. So it's some stuff just kind of fell into place. Whereas with this one, I think this has been a little bit of a longer process, because I didn't really know what this was going to be or how I wanted to address the particular point. And I think I had this large idea of like, well, we all don't need to be divided. And that's a very, very
large so it's like you basically have like a thesis statement, and then you back it up with your comedic essays.
With the stand-ups.
Yes. Comedic essays. Well, I mean, I just think about it in terms of writing. Like, that's how you write it. Yeah,
that's a great description of what it is. I think it is very essayistic.
Because it's very longer format. It's not like you're going to open mics and working at 4 minutes at a time. Right. You're doing... like, essentially one-man shows. Like,
building it out in the context of an hour. And so that's why it's like, when I do go to open mics and I start working some stuff out, there's certain points where they're like, what the fuck is that about? Yeah. That was a weird joke. And it's like, nope, that's actually a callback to a thing I do 10 minutes prior to getting to this joke. So, but, you know, this one, I think around maybe November or December is when I really started paring down what some of the ideas were, and then what they actually mean, and what my point is. And it's still about why we don't need to be divided, but I think more in the sense of like, you know, do our political affiliations even matter in the long run? And my response to that is no, because I think when our political affiliations do matter, we get stuck in them and can't see anybody else's point of view. And I think even if you disagree with somebody else's point of view, you should at least try to understand it, right?
So many people are blue or red, and like that's what it is. And it's like, especially like with a lot of the system that we have set up, it's just like that's people don't see past that. People
don't see past the logo on your hat, you know, or the color of your shirt, and it's all very superficial and silly to me. So I kind of narrowed it down a little bit further than like, we don't need to be divided, to specifically, how can we be less divided to progress as a society? What are some examples of that? What are some things that are in the way? And it's still getting fleshed out. And I think right now I'm planning on recording it sometime in early 2019. And
so how do you work out do you work out little sections in your current, so like a lot of stand-ups, like when, I mean, not ones that always like connect, but like if they're doing an hour, if they're going around touring, they might take like a 10-minute new chunk and put it in between in the middle and try to work it out. Is that how you're doing it?
Yeah, that's essentially how I found is the best way to do it. Because when I was working on Approaching Happiness, from the last show that I before Approaching Happiness, I put together a show called How Not to Fit In. And when I started working on the newer stuff for it, I couldn't just go in and, you know, get rid of an entire hour's worth of material and put together a whole hour, you know, and then go on the road with it. It's too taxing and not fleshed out, and it's not fair to an audience that, one, pays a cover to come see a show.
Yeah.
And two, you know, they don't know whether they can trust me or not. So I can lead them in with some material that I know works, that I know where it's going.
Yeah.
And then sandwich 10 or 15 minutes of, here's some new ideas. Here's a story that I'm thinking about. And then end with something that kind of makes sense to close the show on. The one thing I do, you know, end up doing in working out this whole thing is, once I'm done recording a show, I usually get rid of the closer pretty quickly.
Oh.
Where I'm like, I don't do that closer a whole lot. Which, you know, for Approaching Happiness, I think the reason why I kept doing the closer that I had was I liked it a lot, and then I also felt like I'm not really gonna close. I don't know what has that feel of like, this is final. This is the finality of a thing.
Yeah.
And I was doing a couple of fringe festivals, and I think that closer just made sense. To, you know, with all the stuff that I was working on. And eventually after the fringe festival, I was like, all right, this is going to bed now.
Yeah.
Like, I had my big fringe, you know, 2 fringe festivals, you know, 2 great sold out shows. I did the Indie Fringe and I did the Philly Fringe. Those were the last two fringes that I took that show to, in whatever incarnation that show was in. And the last show was the Philly Fringe show. And there were, you know, it's like this weird, like, little house show that I did. And there were 35 people that showed up. It was a great show. And I felt like that was a good way to kind of say goodbye to that piece. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's probably hard to, like, say goodbye to your, like, pieces, like, because you enjoy performing them so long.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, like, people kind of give me a little flack of, like, you're not really enjoying the bits that you're doing. It's like, no, I am. I don't want to get to a point where I hate them.
Yeah.
You know, like, I want to put them to bed when
they should be put to bed.
When they should be put to bed, when I'm still performing them at the height of my ability, you know, they're getting the maximum amount of laughs that they're going to get. And I feel like I truly still believe everything that I'm saying. Once I start to wane on that, then my performance suffers. You know, then I start questioning everything that I'm doing, and I don't want to do that. Because
everything's so personal, and we change as people, as stand-up, our perspective. We're sharing our perspective on stage, so you can't expect your perspective to be the same this year as it might be 2 years from now, or was 3 years ago, because we were in a very different political climate then. You know, especially because you are so political. You know.
Yeah, and you can, it's always, I always say like, well, if you go back to and listen to something that I recorded in 2015 and take that same subject in 2018, you can probably see how that idea evolved.
Yeah.
Like there might be some core of me arriving at my current conclusion in 2015, but you can see how it evolved.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really fun process. And like, there aren't a lot of comedians that you can do that with, like I think you can do that with Stuart Huff, like Lee Camp. I think you can do that with Carlin, Pryor, like, because they have extensive careers where they basically were like, I'm going to go out for a year and do this hour and work it out and tour relentlessly, record it, and then scrap it and start over.
Yeah.
And that was just a process that they did. And they have like a library full of stuff that you can go back and be like, wow, this is what Carlin was like in the 70s. Wouldn't that have been cool to hang out with him?
Yeah.
And then, you go, oh, look at this idea that evolved in the 80s. And I think that's so cool that you can do that with comedians. Like we have a catalog of that sort of stuff, like this historical archive of people we consider to be like the great of the greats,
That is very cool.
And I say that about Stuart stuff all the time, where like Stuart Huff, if you don't know, is one of the most brilliant comedians. And I feel like he kind of saved me from wanting to quit doing comedy, because I hated my stuff until I saw Stuart and was like, oh, you can do comedy that way.
Yeah, that's the way you want to do it.
Yeah. So I attribute like how I arrived to this point on Stuart. So, but you can see that from his first album to his second, to his third, to, like now he's working on, I think his fifth or sixth one or something like that.
And yet you said you're on 5?
I think so, yeah.
And how many years have you been doing stand-up? 13. Okay, yeah.
So
the first 4 or 5 years was building that first hour, or...
Yeah, and then it kind of gets easier. Or once you kind of figure out what you want to do and how you want to present it, it, like... I guess the process falls into place a little bit easier. The material is always the challenge. Yeah. But the process is a little bit easier, right?
The more times you do the process, the better it, like, kind of falls.
Yeah, like, okay, when I'm done with this, I've got, XYZ material that I backlogged that I can do, these jokes from this hour, and then here's the new stuff that I want to work on, and see if the new stuff is anything. Yeah. And sometimes it's going to be nothing. Nice. Yeah. And that's sort of the fun part to me. And that, again, that's something that I learned from watching Stuart, is how he took the more polished material and then brought in the new stuff, and blended the two ideas and then let it grow.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, as we're winding down the podcast, I know we talked about sleep stuff earlier, so I always ask people, like, what are your dreams or goals for your future?
30 to 50 people in any city I go to. Okay. That's
you knew that goal right away.
It's a very specific goal.
Very specific goal.
I don't know. I never wanted to be famous or anything, but if I can get 30 to 50 people to come out to see me in any city I can go to, even if we're charging $5 or $10, that means that whoever's opening the show gets paid, and gets to be in front of a crowd that gives a shit. And for me, coming up as a younger comic, as somebody that was only like 3 or 4 years in, doing those shows meant so much, and getting paid meant so much.
Oh, it does.
Is like, I hate it whenever I'm like, I can't pay you because we made $10 tonight, So like, if I can get 30 to 50 people in any room, that means that openers get paid, they get to be in front of a cool crowd, and I get to make a living off of doing comedy, which is essentially what I want to do. I want to be able to pay my bills and take care of my family. Those are the two things that I want to do with comedy and with touring. And
you're already doing that, basically.
On my way.
On your way.
Yeah. Well, some months are better than others.
Yeah. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun.
In the show by saying good night, everybody. So good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I slept with Krish Mohan. Be sure to check Krish's podcast, Taboo Table Talk, out, as well as Forkful of Noodles, his web series. Find out more dates for him at ramanoodlescomedy.com and follow him on Twitter at Krish Mohan Haha. If you like the podcast, please rate and review on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Play. We're brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. I'm releasing a new podcast each week, so please tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. Thanks to Josh Bryant for the music, and if you want to find out more, please go to sarahallbritton.com and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at sarahallbritton. Until next time, good night.
Sleeping with Sarah.